His leg looked pretty badly damaged. Was that from the teep to the shin? Do you think you hyperextended his knee?
Nah, I think it's just my skinny shins. My skinny shins sliced his legs up, and you could probably see the marks I left on his legs. Yeah, because I did what I did to Brunson. Before the fight, and Brunson, I said, "Let's go, bitch. I'll show you skinny," when I was in my stance.
The MMA world has significantly changed, and leagues recently have been signing bright and well-rounded fighters. There are athletes in the world's best league, that's the UFC, who have been holding up positions for a few years and they are not physically strong. People call guys like that skin and bones or even thin men. Sometimes one can take a look at them and think, is this guy really a fighter? Are you kidding me? There is a great meme which perfectly describes these guys. It's hard to explain to someone who doesn't watch MMA that the guy on the right would completely destroy the guy on the left in a real fight. We'll talk about these fighters in our video today. We'll tell you about the current 10 best skinny fighters in the UFC. Please don't forget to leave a like and a 4-word comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Let's get started. Number 10. Michael Johnson.
I'm not trying to beat him. I'm not trying to win by decision or a point. I'm literally going to try to take this man's life. And if you're not,
want to die.
And if you're not ready, you're not ready to die, don't show up.
The American fighter had been in the top 10 of one of the UFC's most competitive stacked divisions for many years. He showed his skills in TUF, The Ultimate Fighter, Season 12 and made his UFC debut in 2011 when he got a TKO win over Edward Falalotto. Despite being not a big guy for a lightweight, Johnson beat such fighters as Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier and Edson Barbosa. No mistakes are allowed. This seems to be a slogan Johnson adheres to. His hands are dangerous and it's better to stay out of his way of his bony razors. Though the fighter was alternating victories and defeats, no one ever doubted his very high-level boxing. Johnson is remembered for his long bullet, fast hands and effective footwork. The American doesn't have bombs in his hands, but sometimes one might think watching his fights that there were nitro boosters in his hands. Due to his high speed, Michael, with the nickname Menace, was able to outplay and outstrike his opponents who were bigger and stronger but slower. Though the talented striker had hard times fighting against base wrestlers like Khabib Nurmagomedov, Johnson has always been a real menace to the whole lightweight division.
Say over and over again, I have the fastest hands in this division. I'm the most dangerous guy in this division.
The fighter is 36 years old now and he is a true veteran of the sport. Though he never fought for the title, his very fight was entertaining and dynamic. Despite his age and injuries, Michael still competes and he can put on a hard fight against anyone in the division. Though the fighter is far from his prime and the title aspirations are in the past now, Michael keeps competing in the world's best league and he left a mark in the history of the lightweight division. And our top list today. Number 9. Carlos Condit.
I have to give Carlos the credit because he's number one guy. So I give Carlos the credit. People sometimes they forget I'm fighting the best guy in the world. So
Carlos Condit, with the nickname the Natural Born Killer, was one of the toughest and most interesting fighters in the welterweight division 10 years ago. In his first fight in the UFC, Carlos took on Martin Kampmann and lost via split decision. But only after 6 months, the killer was back and got a split decision in his favor in his fight against Jade Ellenberger. The American fighter got back to the win column and started his journey to the title. Sometimes it seems like Condit was performing a God of Fire dance, not willing to engage at all. However, the main counterpuncher in the game, Israel Adesanya, would have envied Carlos' work as the second number.
I'm not fighting a reputation. I look at skills, I look at tactics, I look at timing, distance, skill set, and that's about it.
After putting to sleep Dan Hardy and Dong Hoon Kim, Condit got to the knockout of the night bonus and made it to the interim welterweight championship. This time he took on the Stockton gangster Nick Diaz. Diaz Sr. was making his return after a long layoff and became the real test for Carlos. They went a full distance and Condit got the unanimous decision win. Carlos took on the champion George St. Pierre in the very next bout. The fight took place at UFC 154 and both men put on a great 25-minute fight and showed their best that night. Condit became the second man who was able to drop George St. Pierre. After this fight, GSP's face looked like Freddy Krueger's. It was pure madness. Though GSP won the fight via unanimous decision and retained his title, the whole MMA world witnessed how good Condit was. The current heavyweight champion John Jones made a post on the Instagram saying Carlos was his inspiration. Carlos, my brother, you have kicked lots of ass, won world titles, traveled the world, built excellent relationships, and have made lots of money. I will say your MMA career was a great success. The fighter continued to compete with varying success. However, the UFC decided to give Carlos another title shot and he took on Robbie Lawler at UFC 195. But this attempt was unsuccessful, and after a back and forth brawling, two judges gave the victory to the Berserk. After this fight, the career of the natural-born killer began to decline and eventually he retired from the sport. Number 8. Corey Sandhagen.
I'm going to keep staying in my lane, man. I do this for love. I don't really care about anything else. I don't care about being famous or Instagram followers or making $1 million, you know, like that's not what it's about for me. It's about literally fighting the best guys, beating the best guys, and retiring knowing that I did that. That's what's important to me.
The fight with the face of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo keeps getting better and he might become a title challenger pretty soon. Being a tall guy, Sandman brilliantly works at a distance against short, stocky fighters who make up the majority of the bantamweight division. The dangerous flying knee stabs air and splits the space in half. Sandman's opponent don't want to get caught by this. Sandhagen hopped on a 7-fight win streak and solidified his spot in the top 5 of the division. Then he took on the current bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling. It was the #1 contender fight. However, despite his reach, the ability to control the distance and speed, Corey failed to resist the high-level jitsa and lost in the first round via rear naked choke. But Corey kept his head up and soon got 2 finishes over Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar, earning the Performance of the Night bonus twice and snatching souls of his fallen opponents. By getting 2 straight wins, he proved to the entire MMA community that he still belonged at the top. Though our skinny Shaggy lost fights against the former champion TJ and Piotr Jan, he never quit. Instead, Corey came back and put away Yadong and Marlon Vera. He might become the next title challenger soon. Let's move on. Number 7. Zabit Magomed Sharipov.
Zabit Magomed Sharipov. Holy is this guy good.
And how many times did you rehearse his name?
Many. Fucked it up at the weigh-ins. If it was, they were saying, just call him Zabit. Just Zabit. And I'm like, no, I can get it.
yeah. There's the ego talking.
He's phenomenal.
In his time, the Dagestani ninja Zabit Magomed Sharipov made a lot of buzz in the MMA world. His skinny stature, vivid and lush hairstyle was baffling mixed martial arts fans as he didn't look as a fighter at all. The Shaolin monk made his debut in the world's best league back in 2017 when he took on the American Mike Santiago. On this night, he put on his fighting skills on full display. Amazing distance control, striking, spectacular spinning kicks, draining and hard clinch work with elbows, and of course the famous Dagestani's wrestling, which was a key to victory for Magomed Sharipov, as he was able to get his opponent's back and finish the fight via rear naked choke. A few more spectacular and dominant wins, fighters not wanting to face the Dagestani ninja, and an extremely rare Suloev stretch in the fight against Davis, which won the Submission of the Year award. All this made the MMA community talk about Magomed Sharipov as a new phenomenon, a humble guy in life and the murderer in the octagon with the appearance of Lincoln and spectacular combinations in his arsenal could not help but attract a lot of attention. Skinny Wolverine was calmly and brilliantly piecing his opponents up, it seemed that he was capable of predicting every next move of his counterpart. Despite a successful career in the world's best league, the Dagestani ninja retired from the sport due to health issues. However, he managed to give the fans unforgettable emotions with his fights. Number 6. Diaz brothers.
I see them training. I see, pictures of them with jiu-jitsu gis on and hitting the bag and It's, who knows, man? I mean, it's also like they want that big payday, especially now, and they should get that big payday. But goddamn, if I was the UFC,
you pay them?
Yeah, I think those guys are a superstar.
Famous and scandalous brothers from the small town of Stockton, they achieved good results in MMA and won the love of fans due to their trash talk, extreme confidence, and insolence. In the mornings, the older Diaz was piling up wins in Strikeforce and became the champion there, and during evenings, he didn't mind to smoke a doobie with his younger brother, who at that time was alternating victories and defeats in the lightweight division. At some point, Nick got to fight the UFC's big stars as Anderson Silva, Carlos Condit, BJ Penn, and George St. Pierre. Scandals, spectacular fights, convincing wins, and debatable losses. The Stockton's gangster had it all in his career. Nate wasn't falling behind his brother and made it clear that he wasn't going to stay in the shadow of Nick. Provocations, trash talk, confidence, and insolence brought him a lot of attention. Each of Diaz's brothers have had some success in MMA, and both of them made a big statement in every fight. Though they did not look as specimen and it was hard to say their technique was crisp, they both managed to fight for the title. Guys became the real superstars. Well, as they say, don't be a menace to South Stockton. On his way up to the world fame, Nate faced the curly-haired monster Benson Henderson in the title bout. In this exact fight, the gangster expressed his attitude to the champion with a very respectful gesture, but lost the fight nonetheless. The defeat in the title fight didn't break the insolent American at all, and after a couple of bouts, he put away Michael Johnson, who was at the top level at that time. During the Octagon interview with Joe Rogan, he spit his legendary line when he called Conor McGregor out.
Yeah, Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for, I'm gonna fight your You know what's the real fight, what's the real money fight is me, not these clowns that you already punked at the press conference. Don't no one want to see that, you beat them already. That's the easy fight. You want that real
This fight ultimately took place, and the Stockton-born pulled off a big upset that night when he choked out the hegemon of that time in the second round. He lost the rematch via split decision, but managed to get himself big fights after that. For instance, many remember the clash of Nate and the Cuban gangster George Masvidal for the BMF title of the UFC. Though Diaz lost this one, he will always be the most insolent and provocative fighter for the fans. It's fair to say that careers of scandalous brothers are going through hard times now. However, both of them managed to leave a mark in the history of this sport. They went down in MMA history, and they will always stay in the hearts of their fans. Now let's move on to the next spot.
It's Nick Diaz Army.
Number 5. Sean O'Malley.
I just have a lot of work to do. I want to fulfill my potential, and I do believe I can be considered one of the best fighters of all time if I just stay grinding and just stay grounded and keep working. So
in the middle of our top list, we have one of the UFC's most dangerous skinny guys. Sugar Sean has been quickly getting closer to the bantamweight title recently, and he is the number 2 ranked contender at this moment. A haircut from Monster High, spectacular Van Damme-esque kicks, and a beautiful fighting style brought a lot of attention from fans to his persona. Sean came to the UFC after he showed his skills on Dana White's Contender Series.
I said, welcome to the Sugar Show.
Sugar was dismantling every opponent he faced without much difficulty. Though the UFC didn't let him fight famous guys, his popularity was increasing and he was making his way up to his goal while collecting Performance of the Night bonuses. Despite the fact that O'Malley doesn't look like a fighter at all, not many were able to slip away and not get punished by his long hands. However, many claimed that Sean was fighting only tomato cans as he didn't face a single solid fighter apart from Marlon Vera. O'Malley lost to Chito via TKO due to leg injury and got his 0 taken away from him. At the same time, they started saying that he had the most fragile legs in the UFC. But not so long ago, he defeated Petr Yan in his most recent fight. It's clear that the win was controversial and many consider it as a Guy Ritchie level robbery. However, nobody denied that Sean did a lot to damage to No Mercy and put on a very competitive fight against the toughest guy in the division who was the undisputed champion not so long ago. And Sean definitely didn't look like a whore on the side of the road.
Just look at him, he's like a whore on the side of the road.
Right now, Sean holds the number 2 spot in the rankings and is not willing to lose ground as he is surrounded by the real machines of his weight class who possess a very high level wrestling. After the fight against Yan, many witnessed what would happen if Sugar fights such guys. Heading into the Petr fight, Sean claimed he devotes a lot of time to grappling.
I just, when I think about having fun, I think about knocking someone out. Like, I love grappling. Like, it's my favorite training. If I had to go pick what I'm going to do, I'd love to go grapple rather than spar or anything. But when I think of fighting and putting on performances and entertaining, I think of knocking people out. So,
well, let's see how Sean will do next. Let's move on. Number 4, Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, I respect his fighting. I think the dude is a monster. The 10-fight win streak, got some of the best. He fought some of the best in the division. He hasn't fought me yet, so obviously I have my confidence on my side, but at the same time I got to respect the fact that this guy's a killer. And
Tony El Kukui Ferguson. This is one of the first names that comes to mind when they remember the skinniest fighters in the UFC. Tony had been in the top 5 of the lightweight division for a whole 6 years, and he had one of the longest win streaks in UFC history. The Mexican boogeyman was literally eating his opponents alive, and sometimes it seemed that he feeds on their blood and fear. Tony used his skill to put away Gleison Tebow and Abel Trujillo via rear naked choke in the first round. Later on, El Kukui defeated 2 top Brazilian fighters in the face of Edson Barbosa and Rafael dos Anjos and earned the Fight of the Night bonus. The title fight was just a matter of time. By this period, Conor McGregor was the champion in this division. It was that time when the legendary trinity of lightweight killers was born: Khabib, Conor, and Tony. Tony managed to win the belt in this next fight, though it was the interim one. He defeated a powerful and promising fighter, Kevin Lee. The next fight to take for the Mexican was the fight with his bitter rival, Khabib Nurmagomedov. However, as we all remember, a horrible situation with the cable caused Ferguson-Khabib fight being cancelled, which led to Tony getting stripped of his interim title. But El Kukui always comes back. In order to prove that his bloodthirst was still there, El Kukui took on the former UFC champion Anthony Pettis. It was a pure slugfest and the whole octagon was covered with the fighter's blood. This bout won the Fight of the Year award later on. The corner of Showtime stopped the bout and El Kukui Tony was announced as the winner in this slaughter.
Nobody wants to be trapped inside that cage with me. They don't want to get cut by my elbows. They don't want to get hit by any of my kicks, and they don't want their conditioning checked by me. I'm a different animal than these guys. They want to be animals inside there. I'm the dog catcher, guys. All right? I got a noose for them.
However, later in his career, Tony hit a rough patch. The TKO loss to Justin Gaethje, the unanimous decision losses against Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush, many fans gave up their hopes to see the same Tony again. The Boogeyman hasn't announced his retirement yet, and I think he still has some tread left on the tires. However, despite anything, Tony Ferguson is worthy to be inducted into the Hall of Fame for his bloody, spectacular and exciting career in mixed martial arts. Number 3. Max Holloway.
You know, like with this point system, this and that, I always try to finish fights no matter what. Even if you're the best guy in the world, I'm gonna try to finish you, and you always gonna see me in your face. I'm not gonna go away because that's just it, you know. Like if we fought to death, like if there's no time limit, I'm gonna kill you.
Max Holloway is one of the best and toughest strikers of our time. An entertaining and skinny fighter, he'd been at the top of the food chain in the featherweight division. Due to his stand-up game, outstanding cardio and fight IQ, Max was convincingly outstriking his opponents. If you look at him, you wouldn't guess that Max is a professional fighter. He looks more like some kind of a musician who would put a beating on a club security guard for not letting him in. The fighter with an appearance of Hawaiian rocker and a skinny stature, he brilliantly manages the distance and is very good at defense. He didn't resort to different escapades in the octagon and provocative trash talk. Instead, he drew the attention of the MMA community with his relentless and diversity in his fights. It's obvious that such a well-rounded fighter would make it to the title fight one day, and this is exactly what happened. Blessed destroyed the legendary Jose Aldo in the title bout. His shots were rocking both the Brazilian and the whole world. After that, everyone witnessed a new champion being crowned. The history repeated itself in their rematch when Max got even more convincing victory.
That's always been a real signature of your fighting style, is your endurance and your confidence in your endurance. So you could push through. Like, I'll never forget the rematch with Aldo. When right before the second round, you came over to us and you went, "The man's tired." I'll never forget that.
After a few dominant title defenses, Max lost twice to the current champion Alex Volkanovski. Climbing his way up back to the title, Blessed entered the berserker mode in the one-sided fight with Kata. On this night, Max opened his third eye, dodging every punch of Calvin, and gave the world his famous line.
To the commentary team!
Blessed set the record for the most significant strikes landed in a single fight and turned Kata's face into a bloody mess. This massacre ended in a unanimous decision win with a crushing score of 50-43, 50-43, and 50-42. Though Max lost the third fight with the former rugby player Volkanovski, he doesn't give up and he's looking to make his comeback very soon. Max is only 31 years old and he's already went down in the history of featherweight division as one of the most dangerous fighters in the world. I think that our skinny rock and roller will keep delighting his fans. Let's move on. Number 2. Charles Oliveira.
You know, I'm ready. I think anyone needs to believe and want whatever is best for them. If you go down on the ground, he's basically facing the biggest finisher in the history of the UFC. If you want to stand up, I mean, we're going to stand up. I'm here to make history again. I'm here to shock the world.
Do Bronx is a perfect example of why no one should ever give up. When he was competing in the featherweight division, things weren't looking good for Charles as he was alternating victories and defeats. He suffered from painful injuries and missed weight multiple times. But all of a sudden, when he moved up to lightweight and left the rankings, the Sharingan awakened within him and Charles took a completely different approach to his craft. It all gave a new breath to Oliveira's career and he managed to capture the long-desired title. Charles doesn't make an impression of a fighter at all. He looks more like a family therapist, but as soon as he steps in the cage, the real beast awakens inside of him. Though he gained some weight for the new weight class, he still looked quite lanky compared to other fighters. But it was the lightweight division where we saw the best do Bronx from different sides. Oliveira wraps around his opponents in his favorite manner in order to choke them out. He's got combined features of a viper and a python. 7-fight finish streak with wins over such fighters as Jim Miller, Nick Lentz, Jared Gordon, and Kevin Lee. Oliveira won 6 performances of the night bonuses in his last 7 fights. The win streak brought Oliveira to new level and allowed him to get a title shot. He took on experienced fighter Michael Chandler in this fateful bout. Iron was famous for his fights in Bellator, where he was the champion. However, Charles got the TKO win over him in the second round and captured the lightweight title. By doing this, he showed everyone that muscles don't matter. Despite the fact that Bronx is the skinniest fighter in the top 5, he was able to beat all 5 of them and become the champion. 11 years ago, I joined the UFC and I said I was just a boy among the lions. Now I'm proving to everyone that I am a lion amongst the lions. Do Bronx set a few official records throughout his entire career. The most submission wins, the most finishes and bonuses. Though Charles lost the title to the beast from Dagestan, Islam Makhachev, he still holds the #1 spot in the lightweight division, and he'll be back in the octagon very soon. Number 1. Israel Adesanya.
I'm playful. This is fun to me. And I told Eugene right before we walked out, I was like, let's have fun in there. I'm going to be smart and tactical and systematic, but we're going to have fun in there. You know what I mean? And I still did.
A New Zealand-born athlete, the UFC middleweight champion and just a dance and anime lover, holds the #1 spot in the top best skinny fighters. Let's find out why. Israel started his career in kickboxing, and that's why he's got such great striking skills. His favorite low kicks and question mark kicks came from kickboxing. Israel stayed undefeated as the professional in MMA until he became the champion. After defeating such solid fighters as Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson and Brad Tavares, Stylebender got himself a dream fight against his idol Anderson Silva.
Holy, I'm fighting Anderson Silva.
After folding the Song of Thousand Birds seal, Adesanya stepped in the octagon. It was a pure high-level chess match between two grandmasters. Battle of Gara and Rock Lee, the clash of Spider-Man and Mantis, but there was no checkmate in this game and younger Israel won it via unanimous decision. After the fight, both fighters took a knee and a bow to each other, showing a lot of mutual respect, and this contest earned the fighter of the night bonus afterwards. After the Spider fight, Israel took on Kelvin Gastelum for the interim middleweight championship, and this fight was no less spectacular. Though Stylebender took many shots in the early rounds, he opened the 8 gates and dropped Gastelum a couple of times in the final round. Eventually, Adesanya managed to capture the UFC middleweight interim title and earned the fight of the night bonus. The title unification bout between Adesanya and Robert Whittaker took place after only half a year. Stylebender took the complete control of the fight and delivered a spectacular knockout in the second round. He captured the undisputed middleweight championship of the UFC. Charismatic anime lover became an uprising star. He even appeared on the cover of the new UFC's game. After a heated exchange with Sean Strickland,
I'm just joking. Hey, Izzy is a savage, bro.
Hey, watch
No
out.
doubt.
Hey, what happened before we walked on stage?
Hey,
I smacked you on the ass like my
Bro, your Pornhub is just filled with cartoons, bro. No man that beats off the cartoons is gonna beat me.
Adesanya defeated Jared Cannonier and took on his nemesis Alex Pereira.
Next one, I want to see Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. Yeah, I look forward to that fight. I never actually looked forward to that fight. I wasn't even caring about it, but now that it's here, that's the dream matchup.
Fighters faced each other in a highly anticipated bout. Pereira looked bigger than Israel, yet Adesanya was a more technically skilled fighter. Stylebender was winning the fight and even showed his skills on the ground. However, eventually he lost the fight via TKO and his belt in the last round. Israel Adesanya is the most versatile fighter in the division, having recently regained the belt. A bright and charismatic guy who paints his nails and watches anime, he will always be remembered by MMA fans. Dear friends, this is how our top list looks like. Share your opinions in the comment section to this video. Which of these fighters do you like the most and why? Which of them would you never consider to be a fighter? It would be interesting to hear your thoughts. See you soon. This was Team Striker.